Good morning, everybody. I'm going to be making the world's best lasagna today. I believe it's the world's best lasagna. If you're Italian, you may not, because you probably have your own Italian recipe that you like to use. So I'm going to reset the camera. I'm going to show you all the ingredients that I put inside. We'll be cooking everything together, so you'll see each step as we go along. But I'm going to just try to explain all the ingredients that go into it. It takes an hour and a half to put everything together. It takes like an hour and 15 minutes to cook it. So it's about a 2 hour and 15 minute process. But it's from scratch, and it is a very, very good recipe. So let me reset the camera and I'll bring you back. Thank you. All right, everybody, I'm back. I had to put a towel on the table because the sun was coming in and just about blinding me, so I wasn't able to see in the camera very well. But what we're going to start with is 1 pound of Italian sausage. I use sweet Italian. You can use hot, mild, whatever you prefer. It's your spice level. I don't like really spicy food, so I use the sweet. I also have 1 pound of Wagyu beef, which I'm going to use 3/4 of a pound of it. All right here on this plate, I have a 1/2 cup of minced onions. I have 2 cloves. Well, I used 4 cloves of garlic because they were small, but you crush them. You don't mince them. You just smash them. I'm going to use a 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. This is my preferred brand. This is what I always use for my Italian food. I have 2 6-ounce cans of tomato sauce. You can tell these are already been opened. I've already opened them, so I have to be careful that I don't spill them. But there's 2 of those right here. And then I have 2 cans of tomato paste. Now, the reason this can is upside down is because you can't open the top of these cans. The way they design them, you can't open them. So I'm going to turn it upside down. The bottom is already open, so I have to hold it shut. But this is your tomato paste. You want 2 6-ounce cans of that. I'm going to use a 1/2 cup of water. I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of sugar. So this is just plain white sugar, 2 tablespoons. This is 4 tablespoons. I have the parsley here in the raw form. It's fresh. But I have chopped up 4 tablespoons of it on a plate. I split it in half because you're going to use half for one part of the recipe, half for the other. I have Italian seasoning, and I have 1 tablespoon of that right here on the plate. That's Italian seasoning. Now, this is what I want to explain. This recipe calls for a 1/2 teaspoon of fennel seed, which is here, but I buy the ground fennel seed. I think it incorporates into the food better. It's better than biting into a whole fennel seed. You can use whatever you like. I prefer the ground fennel seed. And then I'm going to have 1.5 teaspoons of dried basil, which I buy it in this container. It's chopped and it's dried. I got a 1/2 teaspoon of ground pepper. I needed 1.5 teaspoons of salt divided. So you'll see here, I got 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt here. And on this plate that goes into the meat, I have another 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. You divide it because you're going to use it at 2 different times throughout the recipe. I'm going to use 12 lasagna noodles, and I'll show you how to cook them later on. I use Barelli, I like that, or Barella. I'm going to use, this is another thing. They want me to use 16 ounces of ricotta cheese. I don't like a lot of ricotta cheese in my lasagna. You may, and if you do, you're more than welcome to use the whole container in your lasagna. I mix mine half and half with cottage cheese. I prefer the taste, so I use 8 ounces of ricotta cheese and 8 ounces of cottage cheese. You're going to use 1 egg. I have 1 egg here that I'll break later and show you how to do that. I have 2 packs of low moisture mozzarella cheese. It actually takes 10 slices per layer in the pan if you're using a 9 by 13 dish. So I buy 2 packs. It works out perfect every time. And then I'm going to use 3/4 of a cup of Parmesan cheese. That's actually split in 2 also. You're going to use half of it on one layer, half of it on another layer. If you like Parmesan cheese, you can add more. If you don't like it, don't add it or add a little bit. It's up to you. All right, I have the stove set up. I'm going to set the heat to a medium high. I'm going to add my Italian sausage. Make sure you take the paper off the back. Now we're going to brown this until it's 80% of the way brown. I always take my spatula and I break it up. And it'll break up even more as it cooks. The more it browns, the finer you can get it. So we're just going to let this set right now and brown. I might add just a tad bit of avocado oil, even though pork sausage has a pretty good amount of fat in it. I can always drain this oil off once it browns. Okay, as you can see, the sausage is 80% of the way brown. So now we're going to introduce the Wagyu beef hamburger. You can see that I cut 1/4 of it off, so it's 3/4 apart. And again, I'm just going to break this up and we're going to brown all of it together. It's going to take longer for the beef because it's harder to break up easily. So just let me keep working with it and I'll bring you back when I have it brown. Okay, at this point too, I'm going to add my garlic that I crushed. And I'm also going to add all of my onions. I think I spilled a little out over the side of the pan, but we'll clean that up later. Okay, you're going to take a towel, hold your pan because it's hot. We're just going to stir all this in. And we're going to continue to brown it and break up the hamburger. All right, as you can see, I have all the hamburger and the pork browned. You can't really tell a difference between the two. They both broke up amazingly, so they're really good. So now I'm going to start adding all the other ingredients that go into it. So we're going to add, I'm going to add these out of sequence because they're all on the same plate. But I'm going to add the sugar, a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. These are 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1/2 teaspoon of pepper, 3/4 teaspoon of salt, and dried basil. So I'm going to add that. Then I'm going to add half of my parsley, which is 2 tablespoons of parsley. So that's your parsley. Then we're going to add the fennel. I'm going to add the powdered fennel. I won't be using that fennel seed. And we're going to use the oregano. This other salt is going to be used later on in the recipe. We're going to use that when we do the ricotta and the cottage cheese. And that's where the other parsley comes in. So what you want to do, you want to stir all this in real good now. Because you want to get all the ingredients mixed in to the pan before you add your liquids. So we're going to add all that. We're going to stir it in really good. Now, here comes the fun part. So we're going to add the crushed tomatoes, the whole can. That's 28 ounces of crushed tomatoes. I always take a butter knife, go around the inside of the can to get as much extra out as you can. Then we're going to add 2 6-ounce cans of tomato sauce. There again, scrape the inside of your can. Stuff is expensive nowadays, so you want to try to get as much out of there as you can. So this is 2 cans of tomato sauce. Now, this has basil, garlic, and oregano already in it, but it's always hard. So you got to take a knife, you got to spin around the inside of the can. There. So that came out fairly easy, but there's still a bunch left inside. So we're going to add 2 6-ounce cans of that also. Actually, that one came out perfectly clean. So now you're going to take and you're going to turn all this in. You're just going to stir all this into the. You just want to keep spinning it over and over again, so everything gets incorporated. Make sure you break up your tomato paste. So you have to stir that in really, really good. And as this cooks, you're going to stir it occasionally. You want to put it on a low heat. You just want to keep folding everything in as you go. So we're going to let this cook for an hour and a half, stirring it occasionally over a low heat. You just want to simmer it. You don't want it boiling. You don't want it, if it gets too hot, it's going to stick to the bottom of the pan, and then you'll have a burnt flavor to it. That is not something that you want in your lasagna. So once it cooks for an hour and a half, I'll bring you back. In the meantime, I'm going to be putting together the ricotta and the cottage cheese mixture. I'll show you that process. We'll boil the lasagna noodles, and then we'll come back and we'll assemble the whole product in the end. So I'll bring you back in an hour and a half. All right, everybody, we're going to start the ricotta, the cottage cheese with the egg, the parsley, and the salt. And this is to spread between the layers in the lasagna. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put half the ricotta or half the cottage cheese in. So you put about 8 ounces of cottage cheese in. That's half a container, as you can see. And then we're going to put half of the ricotta. I just squeeze it, let it come out, maybe a little bit more. All right, that's half of your ricotta cheese in the bowl. And we take 1 whole egg, you crack 1 whole egg into the mixture. You add your remaining 2 tablespoons of parsley. And then we're going to add a half a teaspoon of salt that I still have left on the plate. My wife, she's Chinese. She does not like a lot of salt. And after being married to her for 13 years, I can honestly guarantee you my salt level has really went down. So now you're going to break up your egg. You break the yolk up, and you want to stir all this in so it becomes one continuous mixture. You can fold it, you can stir it, however you got it, whatever you got to do to get this to mix. Try to make sure you get all your parsley in it. But as I said, I prefer a mixture of ricotta and cottage cheese. So that's the mixture that you're going to spread on top of the lasagna noodles when we get to that point. As you can see, I have this on a slow simmer on the back burner. So I'm going to turn it up just a little bit more. Now I'm going to get a pan and I'm going to get my lasagna noodles cooking. All right, so in this pan I have between 6 and 8 quarts of water. I'm going to add about a teaspoonful of salt. I'm using actually coarse pink Himalayan salt. So you put that in the pan. I'm going to put some avocado oil, about a tablespoon. And now we're going to bring this to a boil. And once this comes to a full rolling boil, we're going to add 12 lasagna noodles to it. You can see the water is a full rolling boil. I have 12 lasagna noodles. I'm going to drop in. As they soften, I'm going to make sure that they go under the water so they all cook evenly. So we're going to let these boil for 8 minutes. I'm going to set the timer for 8 minutes. And in 8 minutes, I'll drain them in the sink and run them under cold water. Like I said, there's oil and salt in this. So we'll be back in 8 minutes. As the noodles cook, I like to stir them. Make sure they're all separated. Make sure they're not in one big clump. They're not sticking together. It just makes it so much easier when you go to make the lasagna. So we got about 2 minutes left. In 2 minutes, I'll come back. We'll drain these in the sink. All right. The lasagna noodles are done. I'm going to bring them over to the sink. I'm going to drain them in a colander in the sink. I'm going to immediately run cold water over them. You want to make sure that you fluff them. Let the cold water run through them. Keep running the cold water over them. The oil will actually stick to them from the pan. As you can see, they're all separate. They're all individual noodles, as you can see. They're not stuck together. They're still full shape. So we're good to go. All right, the first thing we're going to do is I have a 1/2 cup measure. We're supposed to put 1.5 cups of this sauce in the bottom of the pan. So I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to take this spatula. I'm going to spread it out to make sure it's even. Actually, this dish works better because I'm able to cover the bottom of the pan with 1.5 cups of the sauce. So I like that. Because hopefully my lasagna won't be overflowing the pan when I'm done. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to take 6 noodles, 6 lasagna noodles. I'm going to start over here. You're going to overlap them a little bit. You're going to put 6 of them in the pan. That's 3, 4, 5, and there's your 6 lasagna noodles. So you want to overlap them in the pan. Actually, you can readjust them so they overlap a little more, a little less. And that's what we're going to do there. Now, we're going to take half of the cottage ricotta cheese mixture that we made, half of it, and we're going to dump that on top. So that's about half of it. Now, you're going to take your spatula, whatever you have. I like to try to push this noodle down. We're going to do the same thing over here. We're going to push the noodle down, and you're going to spread this out over the whole top of the noodles. All your noodles don't have to be in, but if you can, it's just better. And then sometimes you have to pull some of the extra ricotta mixture to make sure you cover the whole dish. That's what we're doing here. All right, so everything is covered with the ricotta mixture. Of sauce. So there's a half a cup. There's another half a cup. So that's a cup and a half. So we're going to put that on top. We're going to try to easily spread this out over top of the ricotta cheese. Takes a little bit of doing. You got to be patient. So far, so good. Now we're going to bring this over. We're going to expand it out on this side. I'm actually going to add just a little bit more, so like another quarter cup. I'm going to add here. So we're going to cover this with the sauce. And now over this, we're going to take half of the Parmesan cheese, and we're going to sprinkle a layer of Parmesan cheese over top of it. Like so. I'm going to put some more on. Make sure that we have it completely covered. So that's your Parmesan cheese. Now, we're going to basically start all over again. We're going to repeat the layers all over again. So now, you take a cup and a half of sauce. You put that on top. Take your spatula. You want to spread this out. And covered with the sauce. Now we're going to take your remaining 6 noodles. We're going to put that on top. As you can see, they're not sticking together because we cooked them, rinsed them. They have oil on them, so they're good to go. Now my other dishes, this would completely cover the length of the dish. All right, everybody, it's been 25 minutes. We're gonna take the lasagna out of the oven. We're gonna bring it up on top of the stove. Have the garlic bread in the oven. We are going to uncover it. Take the aluminum foil off. So we're gonna take all these, we're gonna take the 8 toothpicks out that we had. And now we're gonna place this lasagna back in the oven for another 25 minutes. Looks amazing so far. Let's see what it looks like in 25 minutes. All right, everybody, it's been 15 minutes. So I'm gonna pull the lasagna out of the oven. Get monuments on here. There's the finished product. That's 15 minutes of cooking in the oven, 25 minutes covered, 25 minutes uncovered. We're gonna let it cool down, and then we're gonna try some of it. All right, everyone, this is the homemade lasagna that I made. This is the garlic bread. I'm gonna have a beer alongside of it. So I'm gonna try the lasagna. I can't even begin to tell you how good this is. It's amazing. It's got all the Italian flavors that you would possibly think in a lasagna. It's got, oh my God, it's just so amazing. I'm gonna try it with some garlic bread. So there's the lasagna. There's a bite of the garlic bread. Like I said, the lasagna is amazing. It has a wonderful flavor. The garlic bread is crunchy. It has a garlicky flavor with butter. You just can't beat it. I gotta try it again because it's amazing. Actually, I'm gonna get some of the cheese off the top, the mozzarella cheese, the Parmesan cheese. So I'm gonna try that too. It's amazing. It is. It's truly, I think it's, in my opinion, I think it's the world's best lasagna. So you have an amazing night, a wonderful night. Cheers. Thanks for joining. If you like the channel, please subscribe. Please hit the bell, the warning bell, so you know when I upload a new video. And we'll see you in future videos.